All right, I'm going to put this baby to bed once and for all. Why this man speaks the way he does, I do not know. He's a professor. He speaks like a professor. Well, that's sometimes hard for the simple to understand. So the Bible says, because we have such great hope, we speak with great plainness of speech. So I'm going to speak plainly what the professor doesn't seem to do. And professor makes a little mistake here, which now the people are using as ammo against you, sir. So I'll do it plainly, since you're not. No man can come to me except the Father which hath sent me draw him, and I'll raise him up on the last day. And it is written of the prophets. Notice that's plural. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the prophets. Because this is the context. Written in the prophets, and they shall be taught of God. Every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. Now, the idiot sitting across the table over here says, well, that means God tries to teach everybody, and it's the ones who decide by their free will to learn. He's just teaching, but it's not up to God whether they learn. It's up to them whether they learn. That's what the idiot across the table is saying. Well, why don't you explain it plainly to him, sir, that that's not the case? I will. Now, first of all, what he does, the Greek professor, he says these are verbs in Greek. They're aorist active verbs. But in his little speech there, he called them passive. Now, come on, man. And the people are using that against you because you weren't clear. Now, I understand what he's saying. God is actively teaching them and they're actively learning. So in a sense, maybe it's a passive. I don't know, but you're not speaking plainly. They are not passive verbs. They are active verbs. Hear and learn are active verbs. And then cometh is a present tense. And by the way, sir, this is daily cross. This is not something that happened once. This is daily. Coming, is coming. It's present tense. And these verbs here are aorist. And every Greek professor in the world should know an aorist means not bound. That's literally the word not bound. Ahorizo. Aorist is ahorizo. It means it's not bound to a time. You have to figure out the time by the context. And just not the immediate context, but all the surrounding context. And in this case, Jesus gives you a clue. The prophets, plural. He's saying what the prophets said. Prophets, plural. And it's aorist. The ones who are hearing and are learning at whatever time are coming. Daily cross, death to self. Why do you, shame on you, Calvinist. Shame on you for not saying that. You mention it every now and then in passing. Shame on you. Now let's go to the prophets and see whether the guy sitting across the table, the idiot, was correct or not. Because James White was correct. He just doesn't explain it good. So here's the verse Jesus is quoting, but let's look right before this. And I will make thy windows of agates and thy gates of, whatever, I can't pronounce it, carbuncles. Agate, those are agates. Those are precious stones. He will make, the windows is what you see, what you see out of. I will make them of precious stones. And you're going to see more of that as we go through the prophets. And all thy children shall be taught of the Lord. Now, in this, the first word in Hebrew is an adjective, taught. It's describing them. They're learned. They're taughted. It's an adjective describing them. Not what they decided to do by their free will. It's what they are. An adjective is a description of them. And children, thy children. And now this is not everyone in Israel. This is Isaiah 54. Like Isaiah is like the Bible in miniature, 66 books. And the second half of it is like the New Testament. It's what's coming. And this is what's coming, the children that are coming. God's children shall be, not might be, not if they decide to. They shall be. It's a description of them, taughted and learned in Hebrew. It's the first word in the sentence in Hebrew. Now let's go to more of the prophets. But this shall be the covenant that I will make, future, with the house of Israel. Jesus is the Lord. I'm not going to quote it correctly, but the Lord over his own house. Whose house are we? We, the body, is the temple, the house. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts. Put it. And write it in their hearts. This is the hearing, the learning and the hearing and the understanding. The heart is the place of understanding. I will write it in their heart. Write on the fleshy tables of the heart. Not if you decide to. He will. I will write it on the fleshy tables of the heart. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more, not every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord. Because God's going to put it in their hearts. You're not going to be the man, like the idiot across the table says, well, they hear me. That's the man. Yeah, you're going to teach, you're going to tell them, but you're not the one that's going to write them in their hearts. God does that. God does that. And then in Hebrews 8, same thing. For this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel. Whose house are we? We are the house. The true Christians. The ones that have Jesus in their heart, who is teaching and learning us, and we're coming daily. Death to self. Daily cross. The house of Israel in those days, saith the Lord, I will put my laws into their mind and write them into their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be my people. Laos. There's that word Laos again. It means God's people. So what Jesus is saying is what the prophets wrote, which I just read to you. And they shall be God's people, the ones that he puts the law in their mind and their hearts. And therefore they hath heard. They will. God's people will. Not the people that decide to by their free will. Not the people that decide to listen to you. Because you can preach to someone all day long. It's up to God to put it in their heart. It's what the Bible says. That's what Jesus is saying. He's saying what the prophet said. Prophets. What's wrong with you, man? Death to self, daily cross. That should come out of your mouth more often. You goofed up with your passive verb, which is an active verb. And now they're using it against you. Speak. Speak with plainness of speech. Not like a professor, which is hard for the simple to understand. Speak plainly, sir. So there's no mistake.